Hey guys, I'm meteorologist Chris Tomer, and this is the On the Snow Before You Go forecast. First off, the spider chart, odds of best snow next 5 to 7 days. So initially, the best snow will be in the interior Rockies, with the pivoting pattern that's happening right now, this Arctic front working its way north to south. Then the pattern shifts up to the Pacific Northwest and BC. That's where the best snow will be down the road. For the Northeast, I really only have light snow accumulation, couple, maybe 3 different very fast-moving clippers moving through. So there's really only a couple of areas very high on the spider chart this week. Pacific Northwest, parts of BC, and then initially, like Colorado, some leftover snow with the pivoting pattern, parts of Utah, maybe the Tetons. And that's probably going to do it as far as the high areas. Now down the road, California, Northern California is high on the list, so like Tahoe up to Shasta, kind of late in the period. So we'll look at all that in the forecast. So here's my here are my bullet points. Right now we're looking at a pattern pivot across the west with the Arctic front moving south. Then we're in for a quiet period. Drier, quiet, 2-1 through 2-5, something like that. There's just going to be much less activity across the west during that quiet period. But there is going to be a slug of heavy moisture for the Pacific Northwest, parts of BC, Baker, Whistler. I'll show you that coming up here in just a few minutes. All right, so here is water vapor satellite. Let me just mark the big features. Low here, big low here, and let me show you how that plays into the jet. So you're looking at this kind of a pattern, and then there's a big dip in the jet across the west with the Arctic front. So you've got a high somewhere right in here, which continues to retrograde back to the west, opening the door for this Arctic front that's dropping down and sort of pivoting at the same time. So there is going to be leftover snow. Could be a powder day on Monday the 30th as a result of this continuing to slide down as a southern track storm. You may have leftover snow in Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, and so on. So that's the way the pattern looks right now. Let me show you what the jet looks like by the time we get into 2-7. Split. At 2-7, it's split. So we're not looking at a real solid pattern here. So you've got the quiet period, 2-1 through probably 2-5, and then the residual effects of that could linger, 2-6, 2-7 with this split jet. You get the polar to the north, southern track, southern branch to the south there. So not a whole lot of meshing of the two at that point. Let me just take you back and show you how all this plays out in time. Forecast, radar, and satellite. So on Monday morning, that's the view, leftover snow happening in Colorado, Utah, and then the storm kind of tracks to the south. And then we're in the quiet period here. Not a lot happening unless you're up in BC, Washington State. Here comes that next storm system. There's 2-3 very late in the day. Some pretty heavy moisture up into BC and Washington State. Those would be the preferred areas. Probably up into Revelstoke and eastern parts of BC as well, but pretty limited at that point. All right, let me show you what the numbers look like here. So 1:30 through 2-7. So you've got some leftover numbers, leftover snow in Colorado on 1:30. In California, that snow comes very late in the period. Otherwise, the biggest snow during the heart of this time period is really up in Whistler and Baker and Revelstoke. Red Mountain gets a little bit of snow. But yeah, there you go. That's 1:30 through 2-7. Let me show you what the Northeast looks like. So 1:30 through 2-7, very light, 1 to 6 inches. Again, a couple of clippers coming through. Just no big snows in my forecast. Northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire, northern Maine probably gets the most. That's not my Tomer's Take. That's not my pick of the week up there. This is my pick. Stick to Whistler, stick to Baker, stick to Revelstoke, and late in the period, 2-3, 2-4, 2-5. But early in the period, going to hit Colorado with the residual effects of this Arctic front moving through there. All right, guys, thank you for tuning in here for this On the Snow Before You Go forecast. Always appreciate it. Take care.